Hello, everybody. We are Organic, and today we're gonna talk you guys through one of our most complex pieces of work that we did for one of our clients, and how Zeppelin helped us achieve our very ambitious goals. We're naming this talk from 50 to 1,000: How Components Can Accelerate Workflows and Website Views. And it's not about the best way; it's just our way of approaching this type of work. Maybe you guys can borrow some of this for your own project or company. If not, we hope that you guys at least enjoy it and find some of this experience relatable and fun. So before we even start, some intros. I am Daniel Vietma, Technical Director at Organic. I've been building front-end and backend systems for like 16 years. At the beginning, more as a hands-on engineer, and then later on more into getting into more like tech leadership, or however you want to call it. Basically means less coding and more meetings. I focus on highly collaborative agile processes, mainly Scrum. I'm a huge advocate of it. And I also love, not in any particular order, vintage scooters. This is me with my 1965 Vespa, Julieta. Surfing and also paella, both cooking and eating. I'm from Spain, by the way.
Hi, I am joining Daniel today. My name is Laura Horowitz. I'm a creative director at Organic. I've been working in advertising for 17 years now, and I've spent the majority of my career designing digital experiences. I've been both agency side and in-house, so a good mix of both. 2 of my 17 years have been at Organic, and they've been really amazing to say the least. I live in Brooklyn, and a little bit more about me, a little bit deeper, is I really thrive on building relationships, both in and outside of work. I love being really productive, so sort of OCD from a productivity standpoint. Really appreciate kindness. I look for curiosity in really everything that I do in and out of work. And traveling abroad is definitely a happy place, hence some of the images here on the screen, just to give you a little bit more of a visual of me. So really excited to be here today. So you're probably wondering who's Organic. So I can tell you a little bit more about who we are before we dive into our story a little bit further today. Who we are really boils down to this statement here on the screen. We are a digital boutique and we design resilience. We at Organic design apps, large-scale .com experiences, and different digital products. We even step in to help our clients define a broader vision for user experience, for technology, in a way that's going to help them meet their goals as a business and really start to define like what the work really is. So that should give you a better idea in terms of the altitude of the type of work that we do. We really define ourselves as an agency powered by technology. So in addition to our tech teams, we are teams of experience strategy, creative, and user experience.
And since this is a conference about Zeppelin and just like tools in general, we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what's the Organic approach to tools and collaboration. We're a digital agency, so things move really fast in terms of like tooling. So one of the main things that came to mind is just always keep your eyes open for what is the best or new way of doing A, B, or C. And this goes for both designers and technologists. Like that's how in a very short amount of time, just like a few years, we moved from like using Photoshop files to using Sketch to now using Figma. So keeping that curiosity is one of our sort of like main ethos. And then the other thing is we tend to favor cloud first tools because they're, of course, great for remote collaboration. And that's always important. But in this day and age, hello, COVID, more than ever. So some of the examples of tools that we use on a day-to-day basis, for example, we use Miro for anything that has to do with online collaboration, like brainstorming, retrospectives. We share some of our work there with clients. We use Figma for design, and then Zeppelin for handoff, organization, storage, and whatnot. So now that we have told you guys a little bit about our culture and how we approach tools and processes. We wanted to tell you these like 50 to 1,000 moments, components, story through the lens of a pretty big rebranding work that we did for one of our biggest clients, which is NI, formerly known as National Instruments. So for those of you guys that may not know them, there's one of these huge companies that you may not have never heard about before. They're based in Texas, not to be confused with Texas Instruments. They're a $1 billion company. They build testing equipment, both hardware and software, for the biggest industrial groups in the world, the BMWs, the Tesla, the SpaceX, and whatnot. And they approached us because they had very ambitious challenges and goals when talking about branding and remarketing themselves. These large, big companies, sometimes they're excel at what they do, but they don't have time to focus on other things like, branding or marketing. That's why they approached us. So some of their goals were to basically like modernize their brand, humanize themselves, get more direct to consumer, streamline their purchase path, and just clean up the content and offer a better user experience. And that's where we came into play.
And so knowing that NI had really ambitious goals as a business, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the what in terms of the work that we've done with them up until now. So Daniel just spoke about, the rebrand, and that NI was what NI was after, and part of their work was really transforming their brand. So where we really came into play at the beginning was that digital brand transformation. So what does their brand look like in the digital space? How does it feel? How do we build a foundation we can build upon? And how do we sort of put the stakes in the ground for some of their other really big, ambitious goals? In the work that we've done, the details have really, really mattered because of the complexity of the NI customer and the subject matter. So this here is just some examples of some of the things that we've been really focusing on. So, consumerizing merchandising, thinking about how we're creating more configurable tools for NI customers to really streamline the ability for them to purchase products easily online. So really streamlining that whole purchase process. And that means a lot of different things based on the different products that they sell, the different customers that they have. We worked through a lot of the content on the site. There was a lot of density. So how are we cleaning that up? How are we being more intentional with that in terms of how that's coming to life within the whole experience of the site at sort of many altitudes? And really also creating an intelligent ecosystem, how we're helping to educate, how we're creating a personalized experience, how we're helping to create a really effortless shopping experience. So, kind of looking back on where we were at MVP when we started and today, it's really kind of cool to look back and see what we did. So hopefully this will give you a little bit more context of the what as we dive into each of the key moments. So now we're going to kind of get into the sweet stuff and talk about those key moments in how we scaled an MVP for a $1 billion company that is NI. So no surprise, the first moment is scale. And really when we think about scale in regards to Zeppelin and what remains to be really clear to us in our experience and our workflows is that Zeppelin's just been a really key contributor for us to move at a really meaningful velocity in our work and for our clients. We began really in the work at the very beginning of the MVP, creating the design system. So building that, transforming that digital brand presence, establishing rules and patterns around, what we would need to start building upon those things. And from there, we moved into creating, a set of components that would make up a handful of pages that we would start to cascade across the site, with the end goal being that NI would have more autonomy in terms of authoring the content themselves and taking these components and building up more pages on the site, more experiences to, again, work through a lot of the density of content that they had. So the components over time, they've really, they've become this kind of massive library that we've organized. And having everything all in one place, having it being super, super portable. There are a lot of really fantastic parallels there between Figma and Zeppelin from a scale perspective. And Also, the volume of our work, which obviously relates to scale. Every component that we design for NI, it needs to be designed at 4 breakpoints. So based on the grid and how the site is built and thinking about scale and doing all of that work, just really, I think that paints a little bit of a clearer picture. So, you can kind of see up on the screen here a little bit, we've got a visual on the left, which was one of our MVP pages. It was the home page. And then off to the right, which is, kind of a micro macro view of where we are today. That is from our component library, which we began with 33 components at 4 breakpoints. Now we're at 724. So quite a jump there. And as I mentioned before, Figma has also been a really big win for us from a scaling perspective. And as Daniel had mentioned, at Organic, we really thrive on using cloud-based tools. Obviously, especially with remote life now, it's incredibly important for collaboration. So that's also really enabled us to move at a really healthy speed and have more effortless collaboration with us, with our clients, and really starting to build up and establish the clarity for an organization around that MVP. So all of these things have really been ingredients for our success in our work and for NI from 2020, the MVP up until today. So what we have up on the screen here, just in addition to what I mentioned, are just some call-outs of sort of what's changed based on how we've scaled. The creative team has doubled. And we've gone from 63 Zeppelin assets at MVP to 743 assets total. Probably while you're listening to this today, there have been even more things added to Zeppelin. And then we started with 33 components and we have 124 today. So this should just help paint a little bit more of a picture of just exactly what we've done for NI and within our work streams over the past couple of years.
So moment number 2 is structure and organization. And this, we feel like this is perhaps one of the strongest, if not the strongest traits that Zeppelin offers for us, which is as views go up in number, as Lara was mentioning, we'll go into the hundreds, the need for having everything in the right place and just being able to find a view or a com very quickly. Lara, in a conversation the other day, she was mentioning to me, let's take a moment of silence to appreciate the structure and organization, not only in our jobs, but in our daily lives. And I think it's true, especially I think since the pandemic, I've been taking pleasure and comfort in just enjoying the small things. And there's so many things in this world right now out of control that it just feels good to have control. The things that you have control on, it just feels to have so. The way that Zeppelin is organized, the nomenclature that we've been using really has bleed into all the tools that we use. For example, Figma, we use the same type of system now. So it's a 1-to-1 type of conversion. It's very easy for designers to move comms from Figma to Zeppelin within seconds. As the title says here, we have a library that accounts for every state of every component at every breakpoint. So it's a pretty large component base, as Lara was mentioning, in the hundreds. And we're going to give you guys a few how we've been using some of the features that Zeppelin offers to achieve this organization. The first one is tags. This is one of the first features in terms of organization that we fell in love with. We started using tags for pretty much everything. We're almost abusing tags, tags for states, for pages, for sections. And it's great because, of course, you can group views or components around specific concepts, and you get this nice navigation with these pills on the top, where you can jump into whatever group of views or comms that you are using that tag for. Quickly, we realized that as we go up in number of views, tags alone, we're just not going to cut it. And that's when we started using sections. So sections, it's another way of categorizing your views. The way that we're using sections is basically as a mean of separating different pages of the website. So for example, homepage will get their own section, a checkout will get their own section, PDP will get their own section. And then from there, we evolve using tags as kind of states or features of the site that will bleed across different pages of the website. So for example, errors will have a tag for compile all the errors in the site across different pages, or like form elements across the site. So these two really became a powerhouse for us to be able to really find a component very quickly throughout all the like different views and components that we had. As Lara mentioned, when you also start compounding breakpoints, it's just blows exponentially.
Another really big one too were these the feature of being able to group views. So I think we can all appreciate any moment in life when we have fewer tabs open, either in our brains, our computers, really anywhere. They could even be physical tabs. But the grouping of views really kind of started to become important to us when we were, really starting to scale more, and really thinking of, what else can we add to the ease of navigation and organization across all of our work, knowing that a ton of different team members are also touching Zeppelin. So it's not just creative for us. It's not just devs. It's really everybody. So I think this feature too could be really meaningful for a lot of different people. But, the person I think of that comes to mind is a developer when, creative is handing these things off and we're packaging up a component to them and they want to see it in 4 views. They want to look at how the content is responsive. How are things lining up to the grid? How are the type styles changing? That type of thing. So having that all in one location has been really powerful. It's just really helped us to just maintain consistency and be really economic with the number of things that we're putting into Zeppelin. So I think it's given us sanity, clarity, great collaboration and just transparency. And also just, again, not having too many tabs open. The next moment here is we wanted to hit on about just the ease of integration with design tools. And it really is in a matter of seconds. I know it's probably obvious for those watching today who use Figma and Zeppelin and use the plugin. They know that it integrates really effortlessly. But really what I wanted to hit on here is just the value in that we get from a speed perspective and what that means for our workflows. And it's really immeasurable because, I think of the time that we've gotten back. I think of pre-Zeppelin days, pre-cloud design tool days, spending hours documenting annotations, complex design notes to pass off to multiple different audiences. So really being able to get that time back to spend more time designing, to spend more time with, our team members, to collaborate. It's really just opened up a really even more optimal process, not only for the creative team, but for, a team of teams. So when thinking about, design to dev handoff and what that's meant for us, we use Figma. We've said that several times for all of our design work at Organic. And so that's where all the design work happens. And we refer to on NI, we refer to Zeppelin as the source of truth because that's really how we've designed our process and how we use it. So during our design process, we are very, very intentional about what we're handing off and what becomes a part of that source of truth. And we really try to do that from the genesis of the design work. So what's the name of the actual frame in Figma? Because we know that data is going to carry over. Thinking about the naming convention. And just being, like I said, really intentional with that. So because Zeppelin acts as like a really central location for us, it's also a place we go back to daily to say like, okay, what's the latest? Like creative team might be in a meeting and we need to pull something up really quickly. Zeppelin is always open. So that might be a place that we go to instead of Figma because we were not dealing with version control in Zeppelin. And like I was saying before, kind of that source of truth can mean different things to different team members. So, a developer can scrape styles from a CSS module, use it directly in the code. A delivery manager can pick up links from Zeppelin and they can put it into client documentation. We've even given our clients access to Zeppelin, as I was mentioning before about giving NI more autonomy and starting to author more of these components. A client may need to author a component and they need a new image that they need to source. So they can go into Zeppelin, they can download an image as a sort of a place to start, or they can just pull the specs right from there. And because we've designed with the final output in mind, we have so much confidence that when people are going in and pulling data, pulling specs from Zeppelin, that it's going to be accurate. And that's just a huge win, because thinking about just the volume of assets we'd have to produce with design documentation before, there would always be like small errors. So it just helps with a better product, better work streams, really overall. So, what's really also been amazing about it is just the collective respect that we have on the team for Zeppelin, and how we all contribute and collaborate to putting meaningful inputs in there. And so really the power in that, I think the power in us and how we contribute to it and how we collaborate around it, we all really see it and experience it like across our workflows pretty consistently.
And when speaking about collaboration, which is the last moment, because it's something that we feel that kind of like infuses everything else that we've been talking about. It's almost like the grease that keeps the parts of the engine moving. When thinking how Zeppelin has enabled us, the work that we did for NI in terms of collaboration, there was like 3 features that kind of like came to mind that really bring it to life. One is the portability aspect of it, and the fact that it's a web-based tool, as Lara was mentioning. It's so easy to just like share a URL with a mate or just post it on our client and I. They use ASDO, Microsoft ASDO, so it's just very easy to share URLs there. I think we're all, at least myself, a little bit traumatized from like back in the day having to download like literally like gigabyte files from Photoshop, just taking minutes. So thankfully, those times are over. The second feature is the style inspector, which in my mind was one of the kind of like flagship features of Zeppelin when they came out. It's like, oh wow, this is a tool that the designer use, but they also kind of like talk to developers. Like you can export styles and you don't need developers anymore. You can fire all of your developers. I don't know. Please don't do that. Just kidding. It's actually not perfect. Like it's not that you don't need developers anymore, but it's actually quite useful. We use it on our day-to-day basis. QA teams love it because there's lots of cells they can scrape and just compare with the live version of the site and just see if something is up to spec or not. And then the last one, it's this like source of truth repository aspect of it. And this just speaks how we have this divide between, okay, Figma is for like work in progress. And then we have Zeppelin when something is like final and just good to go. And I was just like reminiscing of back in the day having just like a server with like files, and one will be like the final, then you'll have like a final version 2, and then like a final, and you will never know which one was the actual final. So we don't have that issue anymore. If it's in Zeppelin, it's good to go. So the culmination of moments, this is really just sort of like recap and bring the moments back together in one place, that sort of like bring this work that we did for National Instruments in terms of like how Zeppelin enabled to do it, like the scale, the structure and organization, the integration with design tools, the depth handoff, and then the collaboration. And for me, the conclusion is really only with tools that allow you to move at the speed and scale that we were in this project for NI. Only with this type of like speed and scale, you can achieve this sort of like numbers that you get on like massive enterprise projects. So just talking about the sheer number of views that we had, it's just impossible that we would have done it without tools like Figma or Zeppelin.
And these quotes we wanted to share because we felt like they were really powerful as sort of a bookend to the story today of the 50 to 1,000. And these are from, internally at Organic, of just how, even outside of NI, of how we feel about Zeppelin. So Zeppelin breeds inclusivity for all. I think that hopefully, if you didn't already know, it has really come to the surface through the stories that we've told today in terms of what that means for us. And I think it can mean different things for different teams. It's a tool that enables teams to contribute towards a common goal. That's the common goal around collaboration, curiosity, scale, source of truth. Again, that we say it daily here, but that's really the common goal, I think, especially working remote, and really keeping things super clean and organized to scale at a pretty strong velocity. And then Zeppelin helps us expedite the output. So again, hitting on velocity, I think this speaks for itself, but these 3 we wanted to surface because they really were important to us and felt just were nice ways to kind of bring a little bit more of a human aspect too of just what people are saying at Organic about Zeppelin. So, I mean, we've had so much fun sharing the story with you all today from 50 to 1,000. And we hope that there are some gems here that you can glean from the story that we've told. Obviously, these things have worked really well for us. I know we'll continue to be curious and try different things and push ourselves and to design with resilience at Organic. It's what we live and breathe. Remain inclusive and all of that with who we work with, and hope you do the same. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.